Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance. We start our video with a story in which our OP maliciously obeyed his boss and punished him. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You told me not to open the door. A former foreman of mine was the son of an Auschwitz survivor named Janos, which in the Minneapolis suburb in which he settled after the war was Americanized to Johnny. Having seen the atrocities of the death camps, Johnny was not particularly afraid of any danger that your average Midwestern street criminal might present. Anyways, Johnny was working the closing shift at a bar, and it came to pass that the bar owner put his early 20-ish son Bob in charge of the closing shift. He was a snot-nosed punk who liked to give Johnny instructions, despite the fact that Johnny had been working at the bar for years, and was in fact training Bob. One of the instructions Bob gave Johnny was to never open the back door at night because criminals could be waiting in the alley. Johnny pointed out that without opening the back door, he'd have to carry garbage through the bar, a code violation, around the block, and into the alley where said criminals, if they were to exist, would be waiting. Bob said not to trouble him with trivialities and just never open the back door at night. One night, Bob had to go out for a smoke and steps out the back door directly into the arms of waiting criminals. The door clicked and locked shut behind him. The muggers, finding nothing valuable on Bob's person, wanted to gain admittance to the bar to get to the cash register. They told Bob, "Have your guy let us in or we're going to kill you." Bob began frantically banging on the door, yelling, "Johnny, Johnny, open up! There are a couple guys out here and they say they're going to kill me if you don't." Johnny looked through the peephole, assessed the situation, and decided that it was much better to have a locked door between him and armed criminals than not, so he calmly answered, "You tell me never open door at night, so I don't open door now." Bob wheedled, blustered, and pleaded that this was different, but Johnny stood firm. "You tell me never open door at night, so I don't open door now." The criminals, realizing that the employee didn't care, released Bob and departed in disgust. Bob walked around the building, and Johnny let him in the front door. "You tell me never open back door at night, so I don't open door," Johnny said. "Besides," he added, "I looked them in the eye through peephole, and I don't see murder in their eyes. I know they won't kill you." "You saw it in their eyes?" raged Bob, incredulous. "Yes," Johnny replied. "I see much murder in the camp, and I know murder in a man's eyes. Those men in alley don't have it." Bob moved off the closing shift shortly thereafter, and Johnny was left to supervise the closing on his own. Janos needs a movie or a book or something. Sounds like a tough-as-nails dude. And our second story. Clearly, this is the perfect time to get to know the new neighbors. About 2 years after my family moved to a smallish university town in a southwestern state in the U.S., the acreage around our house was sold to developers. The building noise was awful a lot of the time, but we met some great people, the workmen on the various phases, not the real estate developers. Once the first part of the development was finished enough to have neighbors living in them, the house sort of next to / behind our house sold. The new owners were veterinarians. He taught at the university, and she had just opened up a practice near our house. They had dogs, who apparently were not allowed into the house after dark. One of the poor dogs was an elderly spaniel who was blind, and she'd get lost out in the yard. My parents' bedroom is closest to these neighbors' house. The city has an ordinance about barking dogs, letting your dogs bark all night, etc. And these neighbors also had a brand new HOA that specifically had fines starting at how many times your dog barked an hour. Who was assigned to count the barks, I never did find out, but these vets let their dogs bark for hours. We asked them nicely to make it stop. Other neighbors would go and ask them to make the dog stop barking, but they just wouldn't. The HOA got onto them. Didn't seem to change anything. Even having the cops stop by and give them a ticket for letting the dogs bark for hours every night didn't stop them. Mrs. Veterinarian told a cop, and some neighbors gathered around, that her dogs were angels and were not the ones barking. She'd be kept up all night if her dogs were out in the yard barking all night. Clearly it must be someone else's dogs, and her poor babies were being picked on. So a few nights later, my mom asked me to make a big batch of muffins. She set up the coffee maker, and she made a tray that had everything needed to go have coffee and muffins with the new neighbors. That night, when the dog started barking, Mom got up to work on some grading. About 2 a.m., Mom started the coffee and poured it into a thermal carafe. She made sure to make the tray look very pretty, then she carried that tray all the way around to the veterinarian neighbor's house. She knocked on the door and rang the bell until they answered. Then, just as sweet as pie, she said it seemed like the perfect time to really get to know them since clearly no one in either their house or ours could sleep through the dogs barking all night. After that, the dogs didn't bother us at night. They made sure of it. In the long run, they turned into very nice neighbors, thankfully. Kill them with kindness. I love that your mother came up with an arguably legitimate excuse to wake her neighbor up and soften the blow with treats. And our next story. Cell phone provider forces me to send them an absurdly small check. My pettiness isn't having it. My wife and I had decided to go out and get some new cell phones, new plan, new provider, etc. The selection was fairly limited, but so were our needs. So we settled on a set and were eager to try them out. After a few days, it became apparent that these phones and service were just garbage and I was dissatisfied. I decided to bring them all back and get out of the contract. At the time, we had something like a week to decide. All we'd have to do is pay the prorated amount for the service we did use in that time, return everything, and we were square. I did just that and figured that'd be the end of it. Fast forward a few weeks, I get a bill in the mail from the provider. They were claiming that we still owed something ridiculous, like 39 cents. That what I'd paid in the store upon returning the phones wasn't correct. I pleaded my case, telling them the 39 cents wasn't even worth the cost of a stamp to mail my check in, the days before online bill pay, and go through all that processing. Couldn't we just let it go? Nope, they simply would not. I begrudgingly cut a check, mailed it in, and figured we were finally square. Fast forward another month or so and I get another bill. This time I have a 39-cent credit on my bill. Oh no, this isn't happening. I was correct initially. They were just inept. But as I no longer had an active account with this provider, I'd never see my money back. It'd sit there forever until they closed my account for inactivity. So I called them up. This time I was so annoyed with the whole thing that the pettiness in me just grew out of control. I demanded they cut a check for 39 cents back to me, just as I had done, and naturally they realized that was an absurd request, so they blew me off. Not satisfied, I filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau. I didn't expect much, honestly, but lo and behold, it got their attention and I got a call from them sometime after, asking how we can make this complaint go away. I told them point blank, cut me a check for 39 cents and mail it to me, just as I had done, or else I'll not consider the matter resolved. They actually did it. I never did cash it. I kept it as a trophy to my pettiness and my small win. I believe I still have it around here somewhere. It's probably stuck in a box in storage. Obviously, none of this was worth the small amount of money recovered, but it sure felt good to get that win. And our next story. I am the owner's wife. This story's about a year and a half ago, so I'll try to remember as far as I could. I am an 18-year-old male. My parents own a little restaurant where we sell snacks, cakes, candies, and various fast foods. It was named after my grandparents, so let's call it Joe's. Whenever I get free time, I usually hang out there with my friends to have something, and I do pay, which also encourages my friends to pay up too, which I earn by working at Joe's, specifically on weekends as it becomes a bit busy then, like serving people or taking orders from them. And yes, we do have employees. My dad allows me to keep the tip money, which the customers give after eating, and anyway, my dad also pays me for the hours I work. Now on to the story. A very few of the regular customers know I'm the son of the owner, and my parents, the owners, also work there themselves. But people often tend to think of them as employees. One day on a weekend, a woman, I don't know, maybe in her 30s or 40s, I'm not good at guessing ages, entered with her bratty kid, who I suppose was around 10 or so. Now, as it was a weekend, it was a little bit busy, and she was told to sit on one of the waiting chairs. Around 20 minutes or so, a table was ready for her. She sat there, and I went to ask for her order. Now, I don't exactly remember what she ordered, maybe a sandwich or something, I don't know. I went to the kitchen to give the order. Now, I was just standing near the register to look for if someone else needed anything, and her bratty kid was running around screaming and running into people, stepping on people's feet, even touching their food. The mother, as usual, didn't seem to care and was on her phone. Now I was annoyed by this, and I held the kid by his hand while he was running and told him not to run around in a pretty harsh voice. The kid started crying and ran back to his mother. His mother fumed and by this time came to me stomping. This is how the conversation went as far as I remember. "How dare you touch my child? He was running around and was annoying other people. Didn't you see he was touching others' food? Well, he's a child. He can do whatever he wants to do. Yeah, not in my supervision. Do you even know who I am?" Me thinking, here we go again. I never thought something like this would ever happen to me, as I always thought people over-exaggerated things. But no, these were real. I knew what was going to happen, so I thought of playing along. "No, ma'am, I don't." "Well, then you should know that I'm the wife of the owner, and you've made a mistake hurting his son, and I'll make sure your face would never be seen here, because I'm getting you fired." Me, thinking in my mind, I thought she'd go for a sister or friend, but she went for wife. Now we're going to have some fun. "Ma'am, I don't think you even know his," and she cuts me off. "His name is my dad's name." I was kind of shocked that she knows my dad's name. Very few people know that anyway. "Ma'am, I'm very sorry that I acted rude towards your son, but please don't get me fired. It's the only job I have. You should have thought of that before you hit my son." "But ma'am, he was and she cuts me off again. "Shut up." She went to the register and asked for the manager. My dad came out and talked to her about what happened. "Your employee has been harassing my son. I want him fired now." My dad looked at me. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I just can't fire him without any reason." Again with her BS. "Do you even know who you're talking to? I'm the wife of the owner of Joe's, and I can't stand the employee hitting my son." Dad has the biggest grin on his face. "Why are you laughing? I'm serious." "I'm again telling you I'm sorry for the inconveniences caused. Would you like to have a refund?" She went into total rage mode. "You know what? I'm calling my husband and complaining about you and your employee. I'll get both of you fired." Now, the way she got my dad's number is because we had it on our board outside as we gave home delivery, so people would order or call, and you got it. I'm not going to explain that. She called the number, and my dad's phone rang. Karen was shocked. He picked up the phone and said, "Hello, this is Dad's name, the owner of Joe's. How can I help you?" Karen's face went red to complete white, like if blood was drained from her. He then said, "Yes, I'm the owner and manager of Joe's, and you are in no way my wife, and the employee you want to be fired is my son." She looked at me, and I just couldn't hold back my laughter anymore. And just then her order was ready, but until then she was already embarrassed enough. The whole time her kid was crying in the background. She dragged her crying kid by the arm, didn't even take the order, and we still had a great laugh about it. By that means you weren't a stranger touching the little boy, he was your brother. You shouldn't have any issues with that, it's all in the family. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.